As one of the last kits released in 2020, today we're taking a look at the Wing Zero Verka, a fan favorite mobile suit among Western audiences. Now, is yet another Wing Gundam iteration gonna be better than the previous ones? Let's check it out. So first of all, I want to give a big thank you to everyone who joined me on stream as I was building this kit. You guys definitely made it really fun, and I hope that in the future I'm able to do the same thing and that you guys would join me then as well. At the very end of this video, there's a sneak peek of what I'll be streaming next. But if you caught me on stream, you'll know that I was thoroughly impressed with this kit. It's definitely an improvement upon the past Wing Gundams, and definitely another step in the right direction in terms of Verka kits. So looking back at my stream statistics, this took me about a total of 7 to 8 hours to complete, but it wasn't really difficult at all. It was a super fun build. Pretty much each part of the kit felt like you were putting together a newly engineered part. There's some features and articulation that make this kit really interesting, and also a good kit for beginners and veterans alike. So for the most part, the build is very straightforward. However, there are areas where certain parts need to be pushed together a little harder than normal, just to make sure they don't pop out of place. Most infamously, the chest pieces on this kit. Among the community, these were known to fall out really easily, and while I was building it, I was experiencing the same thing. However, I did notice that after I pushed it in a little harder than normal, up until where it clicks, it didn't pop out at all. And the same thing goes for a couple of the peg joints on here. They do take a little more force to put together, but they're not going anywhere. Now, the color separation on this kit is really good. We do get 2 shades of blue as well as some red, white, and yellow. Well, a lot of white. There's no stickers that define any of the color separation aside from the cameras and the eyes, which is good to see. There's plenty of panel lines on this kit, which is to be expected for a Verka kit. So that opens up a lot of opportunity for different painting options. If you want to change up the color scheme a little more, there's a lot more panel lines than you would see on a normal kit, but as usual, there's always room to add a few more of your own. The proportions of this kit are really nice compared to the older Wing Gundams. I feel like it's a little less rounded off and more long and slender, which makes sense because even in the manual, there's an interview with Katoki Hajime where he talks about how with his more recent Verka developments, he decided to extend the limbs of his mobile suit designs to give them a more supermodel-like appearance. This was actually inspired by the community because multiple people were extending the limbs of kits themselves. So he decided to just throw it into the kit himself. Now, when I first finished building the body of the kit, I thought it was kind of small, almost a little bigger than a real grade size, but then once you put the wings on, this thing gets pretty big. Now, we do have a good amount of gimmicks with this kit, most of which we'll talk about during articulation, but we have the transformation and a good amount of gimmicks with the legs. We have a nice cockpit that slides out pretty easily, as well as storage for the new Buster rifles. Now, in terms of stability, this kit is pretty stable. It's kind of hard to do a shake test just because it's so massive with the wings on, but as you can see, nothing is falling off. There are a few places, such as the arm armor, where it does tend to fall off a little more often than other places, but once you get some paint in there, or if you even want to decide to glue it, then you'll have no issues there. Now, the joints of this kit are actually really strong, which is something we've seen a lot in 2020, but especially so in the wings, which kind of makes it hard to pose them from time to time. Right here at the wing binders is where it's really hard to maneuver them, but I'm sure after posing it a lot more often, they'd probably wear in and be easier to pose. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the articulation. So as we go over articulation for this kit, I actually took off the wings just because they're really cumbersome and kind of get in the way when you're trying to show the different details of the kit. For the most part, everything is pretty standard. Starting at the head, we do have a good amount of neck motion. The wing binders do restrict how far it can look up because the ears on the kit do hit it, but it is able to look pretty far downward. Also on the head, these ears do rotate down to reveal a little bit of white color separation. Here on top of the chest, we do have 2 shoulder-mounted Gatling guns. These pop out just a little bit. They hang over the edge like that, and you can angle them up and down as you please. Now, this bottom chest piece right here is actually the part that a lot of people have issues with. All I had to do to get it to stay was push it in hard enough until it clicks. With the chest, we do get a little bit of motion there. That helps us get a little more pectoral crunch, especially when we're posing the two twin Buster Rifles together. Here's the shoulder all the way up, and here's the shoulder all the way down. The shoulder armor actually moves on a track that clicks into place depending on whether or not it's in Gundam mode or one of the bird forms. Here is the arm all the way up to the side. Of course, we do get 360 degrees of rotation, and we have some more joints on the inside of the arm that let us reach out towards the front a little bit more. At the bicep, we are able to rotate it 360 degrees. Here is the full bicep bend. The forearm is also able to rotate just about 360 degrees. This little red wing right here is actually supposed to be flipped out, and you flip it back in if you're mounting the shield onto the arm. This wrist guard also does slide up. This reveals the peg where the Buster Rifle will plug into for a little more added stability, and at the wrist we have some standard master grade hands. They also have a good amount of rotation here. This kit actually gets a pretty good amount of ab crunch, a little more than we see on most kits, but it doesn't really go that far backward. At the hips, this is about as far as we can turn it before it starts running into any other armor. Front flaps go all the way up. The back flaps are separate and go about 90 degrees up. The side flaps are actually on an interesting joint that lets them slide out just like so. They can also flip up a good amount. This is about as far as the legs will split, but it's still a good amount more than you would typically need. On the bottom of the legs here, the legs are actually connected to this part, which is on a track that lets them slide forward and backward. So this is the fully forward position, and you just slide them back like that. And here at the leg is where we get a little interesting. So right here, this thigh armor is really nice. As you bend it forward, the armor does split and slide with it, which is pretty nice. Moving further down, the kneecap does pull out just a little bit. This could be used for articulation purposes, but it's mostly used for the transformation. And this is about how far the knee bends on the bottom joint. However, much like the Master Grade Extreme Unicorn, these flaps on the back do open up, and once we open those up, it has a much greater range of motion. So combining that with the bend at the thigh, we do get pretty much a full knee bend on this kit. It is worth noting that the knee armor does not connect automatically. It kind of splits off like that, but it's easy to put into place. On the back of the leg, there's also a flap that moves up. It doesn't give us that much more articulation, but it is pretty cool anyways. On the back of the ankle armor, this tab also moves up. Once again, this actually gives us no benefit to articulation. The heel doesn't even move back that far, but it's cool to see, I guess. The front ankle armor doesn't really move that much. It does go up and down, but side to side is kind of iffy. With the feet, of course, we're gonna get a full point down. We get a slight bend upwards, and also with the toe. With the backpack, as part of the transformation, we're actually able to separate it from the back, but it stays connected on this joint right here. We can slide it out, and it actually connects to this hole right here on the back of the waist, just like so. Moving on to the wing binders, we have one joint right here that lets us go inwards and outwards. On that same joint, this arm rotates just like so. At the end of that arm, we have another peg that rotates up and down. This is one of the tighter joints on the kit, and connected to that, we have a ball joint that lets us rotate pretty freely and get a little bit of motion from side to side in any direction. And connecting from that ball joint to the wing, we have another peg that lets us rotate along that axis. With the wing itself, we do get 7 feathers down here. These 4 are able to rotate and move just a little bit. These 3 are the same, however, they do have a cutout right here that allows them to be flipped up. And we can open the top of the wing just like this, and it reveals another feather right here, pretty much the same as these 4 feathers right here. And on the inside of the wing, we have a clip to hold the Buster Rifle. Now the second wing is a lot more simple. This one will go in and out just like so. It's on a peg joint that lets it rotate 360 degrees along that axis. With the arm it's on, it does rotate this direction, and it gets a pretty good amount of distance. And with this wing, we can open it up just like so. It does lock into place, which is good for when you're posing it. Here we have the weapons, the 2 Buster Rifles. These are pretty much mirror images of each other. There are 2 separate tabs on them. This tab right here will actually let us unfold it. So to do that, we flip up the camera, unfold the barrel like so, then we clip the tab back in. After doing that, we can go down here to flip out the handle, and there we have the Buster Rifle. Also on here is a little peg hidden on the inside. For that, we just rotate it out like so. After getting it lined up, we can push it in to lock it into place. However, I have noticed that doesn't really stay in that well. This peg, however, can rotate outwards if needed, And to attach it to the arm, all we do is slide this up, connect the correct fingers to the hand, then we can maneuver that peg into that connection spot. Once you do that, it is pretty secure. It doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. While it's secured in there, we are able to turn it a little bit. This part gets tricky because the fingers do tend to separate from the hands a lot. So that'll let us turn it in like this for when we combine the two twin buster rifles. Speaking of which, in order to do so, we flip down the other tab on the gun, do this for the second gun, and from there it's pretty much plug and play. It may take a little bit to align the barrels just right, but eventually it should look like this. With the shield, there's not too many moving parts on it, but it is still a little different than usual. First off, we do get these fins that fold out like so. These are connected by a gear mechanism, so when you flip out one, it flips out the other. There are two tabs on the left and right here. We can flip these out, and this is where the guns attach when it's in bird mode. These tabs right here in the middle are going to be where it connects on the arm. You slide it down on the armor just like that, and there we have it. I will note that this isn't really that secure of a connection. It's pretty loose, but when you pose it, it'll stay in place pretty well. And the remaining moving parts we'll take a look at with the transformation. First, we'll look at atmosphere entry mode. We'll collapse the shoulder armor, pull it out of the spot on the track, rotate it down, and lock it in the new spot. Then the wings will be rotated inward. These ball joints will have to be rotated like so, and we point the toes downward. Then we have this additional part right here. This will connect onto the pelvis, and that allows us to attach these tabs on the wings to the slots on this part. Rotate the wings inward, flip these feathers up, then lastly we open these wings up and spread them out. So here we have the Wing Gundam in atmospheric entry mode. Looks pretty cozy to me. Now we'll take a look at Neo bird form. First, we'll start off by pulling the knee out. Then we're gonna slide the thigh down like that and push the calf forward like that. So the end result should look pretty deformed like this. Afterwards, we'll point the toe down and the ankle armor with it. We'll do the same thing with the arms where we flip the shoulders out. This time we'll rotate the wrists inward, and we'll also push the armor up to cover up the biceps. Rotate the arms up so we have access to the side armor. We'll flip this side skirt armor out. Then we'll detach the backpack from the connection point and attach it to the slot on the back of the waist. We'll need to rotate the wings on the binders 90 degrees so it can fit underneath the arm, and we'll move it forward and rotate it at the ball joint to align it. Then we'll flip up the feathers once again. Now we have another connector piece specific for this form as well as the other bird form. This one actually fits on a little more snugly, but it fits the same purpose. We attach those tabs from the wings into the slots. And this one also doubles as our action-based mounting point, which we'll take a look at in a moment. And after we do all that, we can put the arms back down. From there, same thing, we split the wings on the back and spread them out. Now we get the shield involved. Open up the wings down here, flip open these two tabs right here. Then this part right here is actually where we connect it to the body. Pull that up, swing it out, and make sure you click that into place. Afterwards, we have this section right here that comes out like so, and we turn this 180 degrees. This part seems a little tricky, but this section right here connects onto this back section right here. After doing that, we just bring this down to cover the face. Now these tabs on the side are actually for holding the twin buster rifles. Simple enough, we just fold up the handles and attach them on the slot right here. After doing that, you can align them accordingly, and there we have our Neo bird form. Now with this connector right here, we have this connector piece. This will slot in any direction, and this smaller square peg will fit on an action base. So just as an example, we plug it in like so, and there we have the full Neo bird form. And the last form, the in atmosphere mode, isn't too different. The only thing that changes is the placement of the wings. So if we're in the standard Gundam mode, we rotate it this way instead. Then we have to rotate this peg a little higher up here, rotate the ball joint a little bit back, and that's pretty much it. The shield attaches the same way. We can use the same connector on the bottom for the action base. And there we have the in atmosphere mode. So just to take a quick look at all the extra parts of this kit, we have our closed grip hands, our open palm hands, our trigger finger hands, and our beam saber hands. Here is the adapter for atmospheric entry mode. as well as the adapter for the two bird forms. Here's a closer look at the peg that plugs into the adapter to get it to attach to the action base. Now I thought it was pretty interesting with the hands and some of the wing parts, mostly the feathers. They're actually molded out of a similar plastic to the Master Grade Extreme Unicorn, where they're not really as shiny as other white parts. You can kind of feel a difference. It's a little smoother, it feels like, and it doesn't really stick as much as a glossy part would, but for the most part the difference is minuscule. This is the mounting peg for the Wing Gundam itself if you want to get it on an action base. So that means the Wing Gundam actually can't use any action base. It has to use this peg specifically. To do that, we pull off this vent on the back of the armor, and this little adapter plugs right in there. Now the action base that comes with this kit itself is actually a little different. First of all, it is in a more matted black plastic. It's definitely a lot easier to work with than the standard action bases of this design. Instead of getting the twisting cylinder to adjust this height, we actually get a latch. There are no screws involved with this action base, but overall it's not too different from a standard action base. Taking a look at the twin Buster Rifles again, here's what it looks like to fold it up into the compact form, and after folding it up we can store it in the wing by lining the barrel with this tab right here. Make sure right here is behind this tab, then we clip it into place. So I will admit it's not super secure, but it definitely will be able to stand still for some poses. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and see this guy in action. If you weren't already impressed with what this kit has to offer, then it's important to know that this kit is below $60 in most places. USA Gundam Store actually has it listed for $55.99, which is just a little bit above that price point that we saw the Barbatos, the Dynamez, and the Curiosat. So definitely not too far off from Bandai's magic budget number, but you're definitely getting a good bang for your buck with this kit. Now it wouldn't be a true review without mentioning a few things I don't like about this kit. First and foremost, this pose right here was really hard to maneuver into. The peg that stabilizes the twin busters onto the arms are kind of hard to work with. Not to mention these master grade style of fixed position hands don't really like to stay in their sockets that well. Another thing with this kit, even though it does come with its own action base, it can pretty much only use this action base. Well, to be fair, it can use any action base, but it has to use the included parts in order to fit into an action base. There's the areas on the twin buster rifles that do seem a little shoddy if you're not taking good care of them, and the transformation is hard to get exactly right. Just because there's so many moving parts on the wings and the wing binders, it's hard to get them exactly where you want them to be. But I think the amount of detail and articulation that you do get with this kit more than makes up for the shortcomings it has. And with that being said, this is definitely a good kit to end 2020 off of. Going into 2021, I hope you guys are able to pick up this kit. Definitely gonna be a good and popular kit for this year, similar to how Barbatos was for 2020. And even if you have another Wing Gundam, this thing is pretty much a completely new redesign. So that's it for the review, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it and that you learned something. Drop a comment below if you're deciding on getting this kit, or if you already have it, let me know what you think of it. I will be streaming more builds in the future, so be on the lookout for that. Stay subscribed if you're not already. But anyways, guys, if you grew up watching Toonami or you just have a fascination with angel wings, go ahead, pick up this kit and start building. Oh yeah.